Hey, good evening, everyone. Actually, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I am Commissioner George Teal, and I'd like to welcome you to today's live town hall. If you are an older adult or know or care about an older adult, this conversation tonight is for you. In 2023, we launched our Older Adult Initiative, which started with a survey and listening tour so we could understand your needs. We heard from nearly 600 of you throughout the county, and we are thankful for your time and your thoughts. We're going to report out on what we heard and get your feedback on our next steps. Overall, the top four priorities that emerged were housing, transportation, in home services, and access to trusted information. We'll dive into each one of these throughout this live town hall. We will also talk about property taxes and safety, so stay tuned. Now, we will also talk. We're going 90 minutes to make sure we get your questions, and hopefully, I'm able to read the script in front of me appropriately. Now, Commissioner Layton will tell you about the format for today's call, and we want it to be very interactive.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, I just want to echo the sentiments of my friend and colleague. And he was not expecting this, but I really want to recognize Commissioner George Teal publicly for his work on this initiative. The commissioners often have a variety of initiatives that we're leading on, from homelessness to wildfires. And no doubt we have been working with seniors for as long as the county's been around. But George really made an interest and a desire of his to serve the seniors in this community, because at the end of the day, you are the lifeblood, the history, the experience that will really provide the next generation with the ability to move forward in a way that is productive. So we deeply value our seniors, and my thanks to our colleague for leading on this initiative. I was reminded this is actually our 76th live town hall. I can't believe it. But we appreciate you joining us. We do want to hear from you. If you're joining us on the phone, please press *3 on your telephone keypad to ask a question or tell us your feedback. For those online, please submit your question or feedback into the dialog box, and our moderator will read it out loud. For those of you with us in the room, please raise your hand, and we will go right out to you, give you this handy-dandy microphone to ask you your question and provide your feedback. I'll just reemphasize what Roger said. If you don't have the microphone, we can hear you here, but the folks online can't. So we'll just wait until you have that microphone to engage. Commissioner Thomas.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I'd like to thank everyone who's here in the room with us, online and on the phone as well, for joining us. As part of today's event, we were going to have 3 different polling questions. So I encourage all of you to participate in these questions because we really are interested in what you have to say. When the time comes, our moderator, Roger, will explain how to participate both online and on the phone. And for those of you in the room, staff will come around and provide you with printed copies of the polling questions and a pencil. So you can just mark your answer, and then we'll collect all of them at the end of the event. Roger?
Thank you, commissioners. We do want to hear your questions this afternoon. So again, we'll repeat how you can participate. To ask a question from the phone, press *3 on your keypad, and you will be transferred to an operator who will take down some basic information. Once the operator notes your information, you will be returned to the call and can listen to the conversation until it's your turn. When it is your turn, I'll call your name and ask you to repeat the question for our live audience. To ask a question online, enter it into the dialog box, and I will read it aloud when the time comes. And again, here in the hearing room, just raise your hand and we'll bring you the microphone. Since we'd like to hear from as many people as possible, we'll limit time of all speakers to just one question, and we hope you'll help us keep the conversation moving along. So let's go back to Commissioner Teal to get us started.
Thank you, Roger, very much. So I want to introduce the members of the panel for all of you folks. Immediately to my right is Carrie Erickson. Carrie is the Executive Director of Aging Resources, Douglas County. Proceeding down the line, Zeke Lynch, Traffic Division Manager for Douglas County. Toby Damish, the Assessor for Douglas County, Colorado. Under Sheriff Dave Walcher of the Douglas County Sheriff's Department. Maria Chano, Executive Director, Douglas County Housing Partnership. followed by Allison Cutting, our Community Services Supervisor here at Douglas County. And then finally, all the way at the end, last but absolutely not least, Deputy Ryan Faulkner, Senior Resource Deputy for the Douglas County Sheriff's Department. And Commissioner Layden, can you take us into our first topic?
I can. So the top priority that emerged during our listening session was around housing. We know our older adults want to stay in Douglas County, but they need to be able to afford to do so, specifically as it relates to housing. Maria Ciano provides a bit of an overview on a variety of subjects, but I'll turn it over to you, Maria, to provide a little bit of that context for us.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you for inviting me here today. And it's been such an honor to be part of this Older Adults Initiative and be part of the listening tour and meet so many of you and hear about the different challenges that we're facing. And so at the Douglas County Housing Partnership, our mission is to achieve economically thriving communities by preserving, providing, and developing housing choices in Douglas County. And so to do this, we know that we need to address the housing needs such as affordability and accessibility for our residents across the housing continuum, including for our older adults. Throughout the tour and in the survey, we learned that you agree with that. So our committee has identified 4 initial action steps for improving affordability and accessibility for older adults. So 1, complete a local needs assessment, which is already underway, so that we can gain data and identify specific needs. 2, perform strategic planning that prioritizes the needs for older adults and the other needs identified for our communities. 3, research development standards that can lower costs and lead to more housing development and opportunity. And 4, develop design guidelines for consistent, accessible housing standards. So these 4 actions are a solid beginning, and the needs assessment and strategic planning efforts are going to surely reveal additional action items that will work towards providing housing stability, affordable opportunity, and accessibility.
Great. Well, thank you for that, Maria, and thank you for all of your work in this space. We really appreciate it. So with that, Roger, do we have a polling question?
We sure do, Commissioner. Now, this is a 2-part question, a little different than we normally do. So here it is. It's easy to participate. All you have to do is use your telephone keypad to enter the number of your responses. If you're participating online, just click your response. And for those of you here in the room, Wendy has passed around printed copies so that you can provide your answers. So remember, we're going to ask this in 2 parts. The first part is, what is your top requirement for housing? Press 1 for downsizing to a home with less maintenance. Press 2 for affordability of annual housing costs, such as property taxes. Press 3 for housing affordable based on your income. Press 4 for older adults housing communities. Press 5 for housing designed for accessibility. Press 6 for proximity to community services. And press 7 for availability of housing to fit your needs. Now that's a lot, so let me go through that once more time. 1 is downsizing to a home with less maintenance. 2 is affordability of annual housing costs like property taxes. 3 is housing that's affordable based on your income. 4 is older adult housing and communities. 5, housing designed for accessibility. 6, proximity to community services. And 7, availability of housing to fit your needs. Now I'm going to let everyone record that now here in the room. And if you're on the phone and on the computer, please press your answers now. We'll let those register before we go on to the second part. Again, your feedback's really important. We're looking forward to it.
A huge note of thanks to each of you. We know that it's not always convenient to take time out of your day to come to these town halls, but we would just ask you to really provide us with your toughest questions, your most challenging questions. We really believe in Douglas County that we work for you, not the other way around. So we're okay with the tough ones. And we know that our seniors are really facing some challenging times right now economically. It's Colorado's worst year on record for property taxes. So I know we're looking forward to your questions.
So just to give a little bit of color in terms of these questions, the reason why we're asking these questions specifically is these reflect some of the comments that we did hear out in the field at our listening session. And of course, we can put numbers on how many people gave us these issues, but in some cases we didn't. We can't necessarily qualify it because these were comments really kind of shouted out live in our listening sessions. And so realizing that these are lengthy questions for you all today to help us answer, it really is, because these are some of the things we heard that sometimes we can't really qualify. And I know for some of you, you might be looking at the downsizing to a home with less maintenance. That might be your number one. Actually, it's something my wife and I are considering. I'm 56. But for others of you, no, that's not your top priority. So thank you all very much for putting up with the technology as we deal with the poll here. But it's absolutely very important to, we definitely want to hear these answers.
Let's go on to the next section, Commissioner Layden, and we're going to come back and ask those questions after we take a few questions from the audience. So we have a phone question, Commissioner, but go ahead and with the next segment.
Okay, great. I believe we do have a phone question.
We sure do. Here we go. It's John. John, go ahead. You're live. John?
Yes, this is John.
You're live. Go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, mine relates to property tax, if this is the appropriate time.
John, I don't know if we got all that. Do you want to, can you repeat that question?
Yes, my question relates to property tax.
Okay, well.
Is this the appropriate time?
Yes, John, go ahead with your question. This is the appropriate time.
And my question is, who holds the Metro District accountable? In the Ridgegate community, why do more of our property taxes go to the Rampart Range Metro District than goes to our schools?
It's a great question, and we do have our expert here, the elected assessor, Toby Domish. Toby?
Thank you, John, for that question. And it's an honor to serve you all as your county assessor. There are over 300 local property taxing entities in Douglas County and over 4,000 in the state of Colorado, most of whom levy a property tax on us. So, John, I'm sorry I cannot answer your specific question in your neighborhood, but if you call my office and you have a specific question about the authorities that you pay into, we can get into that with you. We've got some pretty good knowledge in our office about that. One thing to understand is that every entity that levies a property tax has a board of some kind, Douglas County government, that is your board of county commissioners, who decide what that levy is. And so if you're looking at the levies that you pay into as a property owner, you can do that at my website, the Douglas County Assessor's website. You can search for your property and find out what taxing authorities you pay into and see how many levies you pay for each one. There is contact information on each one of those authorities, and you can reach out to them and ask them to explain how they got to their levy. You can also run for their board and get involved in that process. One of the myths in property taxes that we try to expose this year is the fact that Douglas County governments do not levy all the taxes for all these local entities. The county treasurer bills for those property taxes and distributes the revenue, but your county commissioners control a levy of only about 19.7, which for most of us is about 20% of the property taxes that we pay into. Thank you.
I would just
John.
add, I think it's really important to just contact your metro districts directly. They're accountable to you. Commissioner Thomas, did you have something?
Yes, thank you. I was going to say, John, you asked a really important question when you asked who holds metro districts accountable. And if you belong to a metro district, it's your responsibility to keep track of what the metro district is doing. How many mills are they charging? What are they using that money for? So it's your responsibility to find out who your metro district board members are and hold them accountable. Thank you.
That's a great comment. And I know we have an online question, but I always like to respect the people that actually drove here in person and are with us. So let me just ask before we go online, anybody in the room with a question? Yes, ma'am. I'll come to you. And I'm going to pause you until you have the mic so we can all hear you. It's okay.
On the question number 2,
Uh-huh.
the third one is an older adult housing community. That's really vague. That could be a 55 plus golf community, or I know my mother, when she was in her 70s, entered a community that had progressive care, where she was able to stay through active independent living into assisted living into nursing care, so she never had to leave her community. I don't think we have anything like that around here, but that doesn't cover it in this question. So do I put a little caveat on the question or add my own, or how would you like?
That's I'm glad you raised that. Thank you for being with us. And I think that's a really good point, because not all senior living communities are the same. For Wendy or our experts, shall we answer that question? Okay, Wendy is saying we'd love to have your notes so you can write as much detail as you'd like. Anybody from the panel?
And I'd like to
Yes.
say, during the listening tour and the survey that we had, one of the questions was 55 plus communities. So not necessarily senior living, but for active adults who do want to downsize, maybe have less maintenance. And I think it was almost 77% of the people responded positively that they would like to see that. So we'd like to get a little bit more information from all of you on what that looks like.
Thank you, Sarah. Any other questions in the room? Or Roger? Yes, sir. Thank you for being with us.
One of the things on number 2 we need to add is insurance. We live in a townhome community, and our HOA fees had to go up almost $300 to cover the insurance this year. And a lot of us are on fixed incomes. And I know as a county, there's not much you guys can do, but it's just something that should be addressed in that question, I think.
It's a great comment. I think so. We actually have a lunch with all of our mayors on a monthly basis in Douglas County. And commissioners, I think we just heard today that it's really tough to get insurance. I mean, if you're trying to get a carrier to cover your property, it's getting very difficult. Does anybody want to? Carrie Erickson from Aging Resources.
We hear from people all the time exactly with that issue. We've got folks that have been in their home for 40 years. They did everything right. They paid it off. They worked hard. They paid it off. They planned for retirement. And now their insurance, they either can't get it if they live in a rural area that's heavily treed, or that it's tripled in the last couple years. So thank you for bringing that up. That does need to be on the list.
And I'm hearing from Toby.
Yeah, I would like to say this. The risk rating, I think we all understand the risk rating in Colorado has really exploded in recent years. It has a lot to do with fires. This county has done an extraordinary amount of work to help mitigate and manage wildfires in Douglas County. And that is, it seems like a side topic, but it directly relates to preventing all kinds of things. Obviously damage and fires, but keeping homeowners insurance down. It's not working very well, but we're doing what we can.
I don't want to get off on a tangent, but our Wildfire Action Collaborative is doing just that. So ensuring we have longer aerial support in the event of a wildfire. The Marshall Fire was devastating, and that was December 30th. So we know that's a year-round issue, and we really want to protect you from that potential crisis. We do have an online question, Roger.
We do. It comes from Ed. He says, I'm thinking about relocating back to Douglas County for retirement. However, there is currently zero tax incentive that I'm aware of for seniors in the county. My current county in Florida offers homestead and senior exemptions on property taxes.
Who wants to talk about taxes?
So Ed, right now, you would have to start all over to get a senior homestead exemption by living in your home for 10 years. However, there is a bill in the legislature right now that is working its way through to try and change that. But right now, there is nothing in place.
You know, that is something that did come up in our discussions when the commissioners, when we were going through the process of setting the budget and also determining the county mill levy for this year. That was something that came up briefly in a conversation, and we actually did turn a question to the county attorney of, you know, could we offer tax relief by extending a homestead exemption, just like the state offers after a 10-year period. We talked about it some. Our concern was, quite frankly, providing tax relief in a uniform manner. And that's why we came up with the idea of the tax rebates. When you pay your taxes, your property taxes this year, or your mortgage company pays your property taxes, it is our plan. We will be giving everyone who pays their taxes a tax rebate. And so it's something that we talked about, that we considered of doing a targeted one as a homestead exemption just for seniors here in the community. And I'm glad we got that question, because I think maybe that's something that we actually revisit for next budget year.
Commissioner Teal, if I could jump, I know we got to go to the next segment, but for people that are thinking about Douglas County, there is a tax incentive. The reality is we have a balanced budget, no debt, and we just returned $38.7 million back to our citizens. I believe we're the only county in the state to do that. Correct me if I'm wrong, board, but I don't think we have any intent to raise your taxes or add new taxes. So that'd be a pretty big incentive to me if I were thinking about Douglas County.
Indeed.
George?
Thank you, Abe. Well, folks, our next segment that we do want to talk about is transportation. Affordable transportation also emerged as a key topic during our listening sessions, with nearly 80% of survey respondents marking affordable transportation as poor here in Douglas County. Within this category, our action steps include establishing countywide microtransit program, developing funding sources and finding new partners to expand current services, and supporting funding and logistics for a shuttle program for all older adults. And so I'd like to go to Zeke Lynch, our traffic division manager here in Douglas County. And Zeke, can you fill all the attendees in with our plans for microtransit here in the county right after I say that if you are joining us online and you have a question and you wish to ask a question, please do so by pressing *3 on your telephone keypad, and you'll be transferred to an operator who will take down some basic information. With that said, Zeke, can you fill us in on what we're thinking about for microtransit here in Douglas County?
Well, thanks, Commissioner, and thanks everyone for joining us this evening. I guess I can't fill you in on everything because there's so much happening in our county around transit right now. We already have some services provided by some nonprofits for various trips that need to be made for our elderly population or senior population and the disabled. But specific to microtransit, one of the first things we'd like to do is host more meetings like this to really gauge the interest from not only our senior population, but our general population about what transit means for them, and specifically understanding kind of how and where and when people travel, so that when we do, embark on a microtransit service, that service really collectively meets everyone's combined needs. So I think that's where we would start. We have a really good example of some microtransit service in the city of Lone Tree right now called the Lone Tree Link. And so there's been some discussion around what if we expand that service in the immediate area, or what if we replicate that service elsewhere in the county? So having a similar microtransit, and for those of you that, aren't aware of specifically that term microtransit, it's really an on-demand shuttle. They're typically, 10 to 15 person shuttles with drivers that will pick you up kind of like an Uber or a Lyft ride, but it's a community-based service where anybody within the service boundary can call for a ride and get a ride to wherever they need to go within that boundary. So back to cloning the service, that we could look at opportunities within Castle Rock, we could look with opportunities within Highlands Ranch and Parker, and then furthermore, how do those services interact? say somebody wants to go from Parker to a hospital appointment in Highlands Ranch. How does that trip happen? So we're really going to start digging into those details as part of our transit study that we're getting ready to kick off.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Zeke. I know this is a topic that the commissioners are pretty excited to explore. See if it'll work. See if it's something that can work not just in the city of Lone Tree, but around the county. So we're going to take a few questions pertaining to transportation. And Roger, it sounds like we have an online question.
Sure do. Before I read that, just a reminder, star 3, as Commissioner Teal mentioned, we've got nearly 1,000 people on the phone, so I know some of you have questions. So press star 3 and we'll get you in the queue. This question came in online from Darla. She said, in the summer, RTD was free. What would be the option for senior passes for transit seniors year-round?
Okay. Zeke, can you fill us in on kind of what RTD was doing? After I give you back your microphone.
So if I understand the question correctly, I think that you were asking about what RTD was doing over the summer with their air quality driven services. So they were providing free service during the summer months to meet their greenhouse gas reduction goals. And that's specifically why RTD was providing those free services. And Roger, I don't remember the rest of the question. I'm happy to expand on that answer if need be.
She just was wondering if there was an option for for senior passes for transit services year-round. She mentioned specifically that it was nice to have RTD free this summer.
Sure. So that speaks a little bit to some of our travel demand management strategies, right? So working with an agency like Denver South TMA, which is up around the Ridgegate area, those agencies look at how they can reduce trips throughout the year. And they often offer, and sometimes through employers within their corridor, they often offer either reduced passes or reduced cost passes. And I just don't know the specifics around how that applies to specific senior passes.
Okay, thanks so much, Zeke. There's something for us to work on and get a little more information about. We're going to go ahead and take a couple of questions from here in the room. And ma'am, I saw you raise your hand. Go ahead and tell us who you are, where you're from, and what's your question?
I'm Phyllis Toomey, and I'm president of the Senior Center in Castle Rock. We are currently transporting over 1,000 people a month from 8:30 in the morning till 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And that is a wonderful service that we're providing at the Senior Center. And we get funding for that from grants, and a lot of it comes from the federal government. And so for those of you who aren't aware, we do a lot of that, and it's all volunteer drivers, and all of our transportation vehicles are already paid for.
Great points. I remember when we were kicking in at least a little bit when I used to be on the Castle Rock Town Council to help out the Castle Rock Senior Center. And absolutely, they do good work here in Castle Rock. There are other parts of the county that are not always served by the Castle Rock Center. And that's kind of one of the things that, as Zeke talked about with, could we do, because actually the senior transit,
Yes.
that is a form of microtransit. And so it's something we're looking at of could we do it throughout the county? We don't know that answer yet, but it's going to be something we're working on. I know that we had another question here in the audience. I'm going to go to this gentleman right here. Yes, sir. Go ahead and tell us your name and where you're from.
I'm Jerry Witt, and I'm from Franktown.
Jerry, what's your question?
My question is, again, related to housing here. We've been watching TV quite a bit, my wife and I, and it's kind of scary when an ad for home title lock comes on. And it's like a one-page document is all it takes, according to a guy who was a home thief. Matthew Cox was his name. He says anybody can take your house. All they have to do is produce a one-page document, and your title to the home goes to someone else after they go to the county clerk. And the county clerk says, we know it's fake, but the law won't let us change it. We have to grant title to this party. So your home is stolen right out from under you. So Home Title Lock apparently is an organization or a company that takes advantage of this by protecting you, by monitoring any suspicious activity and notifying you of it. And I'm just wondering how much of a problem that's been in Douglas County here.
Well, that's a great question, Jerry. Undersheriff, I wonder if you and the deputy can provide a little bit of information about that.
Jerry, thanks for that question. We appreciate that. As far as I know, I am not aware of us investigating that specific criminal act. I've also seen the same ads that you have on TV, so I'm not aware of that. But what I will do for you, I'm going to give you my card when we're done. My cell phone's on that, my email's on that. And if you'll just send me a phone number and email, I'm going to have somebody from our financial crimes unit speak with you and give you any more information. But I am not aware of that happening as far as in our jurisdiction. And maybe Toby's got some further information.
Your county clerk and recorder has a service that can alert you if any deed is conveyed with your name on it. So if you visit the county clerk and recorder's website, you can sign up for that service. And if they receive a deed, it's got your name on it, you'll get notified immediately. Those pay per services do not alert you that that has occurred until it's already done. And so this way you're going to hear about it faster and it's free.
Undersheriff, if you don't mind me just adding on to what the undersheriff said, in the history that I know about, there's been 2 cases that associate Douglas County. Both of those cases have been property outside of the state, unmanned, unattended to, with the resident living here in Douglas County. Now, life or property lock or this commercial, I also saw. And that gentleman down there is absolutely right. We offer that service 100% free. What they are doing is trying to charge and scare our citizens into paying for something that is offered by the county for free. You get the same service 100% for free.
Well, thank you for that question, Jerry, and thank you. Thank you, Assessor, Undersheriff, and Deputy. Commissioner Thomas, you want to take us into the next segment?
Yes, let's move into a topic that we heard a lot during the listening sessions, and that's in-home resources. Overall, we heard that our emergency services, libraries, and recreational opportunities are excellent. That's why people want to retire here. We also heard that our older adults need some help in their homes. Carrie, can you give us a brief overview of what's available now and what our action items will be?
Thank you, Commissioner. What is or what are in-home services? Sometimes there's some confusion around there. Let's say you've got some mobility issues. You might even be wearing oxygen. It makes it really difficult to get the weeds pulled out of your front yard because you got an HOA letter, because there's you have to have these weeds pulled. Well, it's really difficult to do that. What if, again, you're in a walker and you need to change the light bulbs on your vaulted ceilings? These are the types of in-home services that people are talking about. If you're recovering from a hip surgery, it may be really difficult to change the bedding on your bed just during that time. There are several wonderful companies that do these kinds of services today, and it's about $45 an hour with about a 4 to 6 hour minimum. That's fine for some people, but a lot of people that we hear from can't afford that. So grants that we get from the Older Americans Act, that comes from the feds. That's money put aside for senior services to help people stay independent and in their home. It goes from the feds to the states, and it's all based on census numbers. So when we do our census every 10 years, we know how many seniors are in each county or in each state. Those monies then are prorated according to the census. They're given to the state, then they're given to the counties, and the counties then provide them to nonprofits such as myself. Presently, there are only Aging Resources is one nonprofit that does in-home services at no charge. There's one other company that does it. The grants are very small. For example, we are out of in-home service funds well before the end of the grant year. Because we have volunteers, we're able to offer those services for longer. But what we heard from the listening tour is people really are in need of those services in order to stay in their homes. So as part of the initiative that we've done with the commissioners, we have two objectives or two goals that we're looking at. One, we'd like to have more providers serve Douglas County. And two, explore ways, innovative ways to increase our funds. So even if we run out of federal funds, we're still going to find other funds for our local citizens.
Thank you, Carrie, for that information. I think that there are probably a lot of questions people in the room and online have about these in-home resources. In fact, Roger, do you have a question?
Let's go to Keith on the phone next. Keith, you are live. What's your question?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm wondering if there will be, if there's any thought or anything in the pre-planning process for Dougco to have any type of incubus warehousing for small businesses, such as like TIF districts.
Oh,
All right. Which commissioner would like to handle that one?
Laura, you want to take that? I mean, we don't usually, well, the answer could be yes. The only issue is that usually those are land use matters. And in the instance of a TIF, which is like a transportation improvement fund, or a tax increment financing, I should say, we do get those to approve. And as far as any sort of tax increment financing for seniors in this instance, I don't know anything that's being approved at this time. Commissioners, do you have any knowledge of that?
I do not. I do know that there is a bill working its way through the legislature right now that would allow counties to do a URA that would allow for tax increment financing. That hasn't passed. So right now, counties do not have the ability to do that. Only municipalities do. But Keith, if you're still on the line, are you asking if we would consider putting a TIF or a URA in an area? He's off the line. Okay, I'm not sure if he's asking if we would do a TIF to raise money to help seniors. I don't understand what the question is for sure. Thank you.
Yeah, and Commissioner, I think just giving it a chance to kind of mull over in my brain, I can see the question being kind of associated to the sales tax increment that actually Douglas County has had in place for 20 years for individuals with developmental disabilities. That passed just a little over 20 years ago. And we do actually use that segment of the sales tax that's charged on every single time you buy something here in the county. Part of your sales tax goes to providing services for individuals with developmental disabilities here in the county. That is something, actually, Carrie, you and I talked about that just the other day, of is it time to consider a tax in addition to sales tax here in the county that would provide for senior services. And boy, I don't know how long we talked about that. I think we recognize some of the difficulties, but at the same time, we also talked about the growing demographics here in the county where maybe that would work. Carrie, would you like to share your thoughts on it?
Well, we did have a really good conversation about it. And if you think about this, and sometimes people don't realize this, Douglas County has the fastest growing older adult population in the state of Colorado, the fastest. And so thinking about something like that, I think is worthwhile, because as the senior population continues to grow and we're not getting federal dollars to keep up with that, we do need to look at something at the local level. So it's an interesting thought.
It's certainly worth the discussion. And don't get me wrong, I am no fan of taxes. I pay my fair share of plenty. Commissioner Layden, you're our lead commissioner when it comes to developmental disabilities. you're well acquainted with the financial mechanisms to serve that element of our community. So just as a comparison, can you do you have that information off the top of your head of what that portion of the sales tax is, how much it generates every year for individuals with developmental disabilities? So at least for the sake of conversation, that could be a model we could think of for providing for services for older adults.
I do. And, it's interesting having served on that Board of Developmental Pathways over the last 6 years. It's really responsive to what citizens have asked of us, which is to dedicate a portion of our mill levy to individuals that have developmental disabilities. And it's been applied well. I think we've just had a series of significant projects that have impacted the community in a positive way, including the new Unity on Park, which is a partnership with Wellspring to provide residential living space for those with developmental disabilities. But that said, there are a variety. I'm a commercial real estate attorney by trade. There's a variety of options and potential vehicles for governments to use in order to leverage resources. I would say I'm also not a fan of new taxes, and I think the benefit in Douglas County is generally we are operating conservatively with an amount in reserve so that if we have special projects, we can fund those out of our general fund as opposed to raising taxes or creating a new tax mechanism. So that is probably where I would go with that. And I don't think our citizens like just taxes for taxes' sake. As one commissioner, I would want to see a specific project and a specific need and really clearly identify that before we ever had a talk about raising taxes. But that's just me.
And if I could just interject that the money that we give to developmental pathways comes from property taxes. It's one mill that was dedicated in 2001, I believe, and one mill raises about $10 million. We provide about 95% of that to developmental pathways, and the commissioners put out another 5% of that, the remaining 5%, to other nonprofits that provide services for the IDD community. And Roger, I think that our polling had not been working, but now the polling is working. And so we're going to go back to question number 1. Is that right, Roger?
That's correct. Thank you. So again, this is a 2-part question. Sorry to have to go back, and then we will move on to our next segment. So here's the question. First, what is your top requirement for housing? Press 1 for downsizing to a house with less maintenance. Press 2 for affordability based on your annual housing costs, such as property taxes. 3 for affordable housing based on income. 4 for older adult housing community. We did have some questions about what that means. So just do your best to pick that one. 5 is housing designed for accessibility. 6 is proximity to community services. And 7 is availability of housing to fit your needs. Please record your votes now. They are coming in, so we have success. And while you're voting, we're going to ask then a follow-up question to that as soon as your votes are in. So please record your votes now, and we will capture them and ask the next question. Here we go. So the follow-up question to this is, what's your second most important? We'd like to know and have you tell us your second most important policy for housing. So it's the same list. We just want to understand first priority and second priority. So again, those same list. Number 1 is downsizing a home with less maintenance. 2, affordability based on your annual housing costs. 3 is affordable based on your income. 4 is an adult housing community. 5 is housing designed for accessibility. 6 is for proximity to community services. And 7 is availability of housing to fit your needs. So this is your second most important priority. And while you're voting for that, I'm going to call on Commissioner Teal to take us into our information and resources segment. Commissioner.
Thank you so much, Roger. And question we're looking for here is, where do you get your information? We're interested in this because as we work on our action items, we want to be able to update you. First, Deputy Faulkner, Can you give us a couple safety tips when it comes to fraud and information? Kind of following up on Jerry's question earlier.
Thank you, Commissioner. Absolutely. Well, first, I would like to say, if you don't follow us on social media, we had a wonderful media press conference about a fraud where we actually caught the criminal. That is huge. I hope you guys did see that. It's awesome. That detective work was phenomenal. Some safety tips can always be found on dcsheriff.net. Again, DC as in Douglas County Sheriff.net. Type in senior safe. That's a page dedicated towards our older adult population with plenty of safety tips. Regarding fraud, we focus on the top 3 ways we are all victimized: over the phone, through text messages, and through emails. Over the phone, we focus on the safety rules of, if you pick up, especially with the scary words of AI, never give information to anybody that contacts you. It doesn't matter if it sounds like your grandson or if it sounds legitimate. Never give information over the phone to anybody that contacts you. The second rule is, if you need to verify it in that conversation, do not use the contact information they provide you. Find your own resources to find true and accurate numbers. I'm a wonderful resource. The sheriff's office is a great resource to help you along that if you don't have anybody that can. Find the true and accurate number to follow through for any verification needs.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm still going. I'm so sorry. I'm just rambling on.
You knocked yourself out, man. You keep going.
Is that all right? I know we're on a time
He's
crunch.
got a script to follow here.
You keep going.
Emails and text messages are really the same rules. We practice the STOP method. It's an acronym for asking yourself 4 questions. Is this email or text message suspicious? Is this telling me to click a link? Is it offering me something amazing? Or is it pressuring me to act fast? If any of those questions are a yes, we had to find another means to communicate to verify. Commissioner Teal, now I'm done.
Excellent. It's that dead air part, man. That's where I caught you. But thank you so much, Deputy, for that great information. Turning now to Allison Cutting. Allison, you're the one that's kind of been compiling our proposed action items in information and resources. What can you tell us about those action items that we're talking about and kind of where we are with priorities?
Yeah, thank you. So one thing that we heard quite a bit of when we were out listening to our residents was where to find information and where to find trusted information. You know, similar to what Ryan was just saying, you know, there's lots of information out there, but can you trust it? And our executive committee went through all of the results that we received, and we narrowed it down to a couple of action items in this category. And one is to develop and identify and create trusted resources for older adults. And that might look different in different areas of our community. It's a multifaceted approach. And we really want to know how we can reach you and how you can trust that information that you're receiving. And it could be traditional, like newspapers, radio. It could be more modern websites, no AI generated, but things like that. So we're really excited to get started with that. The second is what we also heard was a lot of people want to talk to a person. They want to be able to call somebody and have somebody answer. And Aging Resources of Douglas County is a fabulous resource for that. Their phone number, if I can give it out, is 303-814-4300. And you can actually call and get a live person. And they can direct you to resources and providers throughout Douglas County. So it's not, Aging Resources is the provider that does that service, and they can direct you to whomever would be a best fit for you. 303-814-4300. And we'll also have that information. It's on our website, and we have some of that information for you also. And the third that we're really excited about is developing with different departments within Douglas County and different local agencies, is developing a mobile outreach program. And this is so that we can take resources to the areas of the county that might not have available transportation and really, or accessibility. And this is going to be hopefully multifaceted again, human services, maybe some food banks. We can get the information out to you. So we're really excited about those 3 action items and priorities that our executive committee has come up with.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Allison. So folks, just a reminder, we know you have questions, and if you're joining us on the phone, please, to ask a question, press *3 on your telephone keypad, and you will be transferred to an operator who will take down some basic information and make sure that you get a chance to ask your question. It's also worth noting, it's also worth mentioning that this is our first meeting of this year here in public. But please watch for information about upcoming roadshows that we do have planned for the remainder of the year. Visit douglas.co.us to sign up for emails. And now we want to hear from our audience. And did I see that we have? Yes, ma'am. I'll be right out for you again. Okay, well, hang on, so everybody can hear you.
So that you don't need to recreate the wheel, Aging Resources has a wonderful brochure of all senior services in Douglas County. And we have tons of them over at the senior center. We get calls daily for that. And you don't have to recreate it. They've already got one.
And I am going to get the microphone, and I'll come back for you, ma'am, I promise. But I'm going to get the microphone back to Carrie Erickson, because Carrie, don't we have that brochure out front here in the hallway?
Thank you, Phyllis, and Castle Rock Senior Center. They are such good partners with Aging Resources. We've got those printed resource guides, and there's a bunch of them out here. If you are listening or online, please call Aging Resource Office. We can get you those. You cannot pay to be in those resource guides. They are trusted services for Douglas County.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Carrie. Ma'am, you raised your hand, so you got a question. Please tell us who you are and where you're from.
My name is Vicky from Highlands Ranch. My question is to the sheriffs. My husband and I just moved to Highlands Ranch 4 months ago from Phoenix. One of the top reasons we left was the immigration issue and crime. And one of the reasons we picked Douglas County is because our research shows that you guys were tough on crime. I see that through your website, so I appreciate it. So my question to you is, what's your strategy to keep that tough on crime attitude and to protect us as this whole illegal immigration border issue continues?
Under Sheriff, that sounds like a strategic question for you, sir.
I like you already. So we could talk for a long time about this, but I've been in this business for over 40 years in the Denver area. We are very lucky in Douglas County to have the lowest crime rate of any county in the metro area, and quite honestly, probably up and down the Front Range. We are very lucky. But there's challenges with that. But every time I get this opportunity, 1 commissioner, 2 commissioners, 3 commissioners, all of them are very supportive of us, and we put our money where our mouth is. Our commissioners and the sheriff, Darren Weekly, who couldn't be here tonight, we want to fight crime, and they support us with positions and equipment and everything. We have to keep that ball rolling. We do have need for more staffing. But at the end of the day, when it comes to things like this, like immigration, I was at a meeting this past Saturday related to immigration, and everybody in the room knows it's one of the hottest topics in this nation right now. Unfortunately, at the local level, I have no authority, none, to enforce immigration law. But we cooperate with our federal partners to the best of our ability. Commissioner Thomas talked about a couple legislative issues. One right now that's occurring that I think the bill got shot down in a committee was that we wanted to repeal a law that was passed that restricted our ability to even communicate with ICE. There's laws in the state of Colorado about that. And I find that absolutely ridiculous because we work well with all of our federal partners. We absolutely do. So the goal is we are going to fight crime. We have the support of the commissioners. We're going to have a new judicial district in 2025, the 23rd judicial district. We need to ensure that we have a district attorney in this county that's tough on crime, that's as tough as on crime as we are. We like bad guys in jail. And I will tell you, things like auto theft, a big issue for a long period of time everywhere. I'll tell you what, if you want to stop auto thefts, put them in a jail cell. They're not going to steal your car if they're sitting in the Douglas County Jail. So we are tough on crime. We arrest bad guys aggressively. And Sheriff Weekly, he's been in office 13 or 14 months. That's his attitude, and that's been my lifelong law enforcement attitude, is I want bad guys in jail to protect you. So I'm going to give you my card. We can have coffee, and I'll tell you more and more and more. But we do, honestly, we want to protect you. We want to protect everybody in this county, and we will to the best of our ability. You have my promise on that.
And I'm going to add a little bit to that. And I really want to recognize and acknowledge our sheriff and undersheriff, because everything he just said is exactly right. Their commitment to public safety is huge. And I'll just add that this Board of County Commissioners does not defund the police. We fund the police. And we have been very, very positively and supportive of public safety for a long time. We've also, and I'll just give you the very simple answer, we have proclaimed Douglas County is not a sanctuary county. Period. So, and that's part of the issue. And the reason we are being vocal about it and why we are being loud is because the numbers are staggering. We are seeing 40,000 Venezuelan migrants come into Denver. That's twice the size of Louisville. So that is not a casual number in a city that had 5,000 homeless that they were really struggling to shelter. Maria will share with you that we have an affordability crisis as it is. Seniors can't afford their homes. Folks throughout our county that are currently here paying taxes are having a hard time with affordability. So calling people from another country to a cold weather climate without a plan is not compassionate. The other issue is Denver has informed us that it'll cost them about $200 million to address this crisis. So we always lead with compassion, and we recognize the plight of those that are struggling, but we also are numbers people here, and we're fiscal conservatives, and we recognize that those numbers are astronomical. So it starts by being very clear that we're not a sanctuary county, and we've done that. So we're working hard in the metro area to encourage our colleagues to do that. But welcome to Douglas County. I think you'll find yourself right at home.
When you talk about the steps Commissioner Layden mentioned, how we did that resolution back in October, and is saying boldly, we are not a sanctuary county for illegal immigration. Commissioner Thomas and I, we sit on your Board of Health as well. And in October, we did do a public health order to where if migrants are moved into Castle Rock, Lone Tree, Parker, anywhere here in Douglas County, much like they have been, Denver has moved migrants into Adams County and Aurora, not without prior notice. We can take action as a public health order. If there's anything we learned from COVID, the one law in Colorado you actually cannot break is a public health order. And so we're applying that in this instance, and with the cooperation of the Sheriff's Department, if we do have that situation where a busload of migrants are dropped off at the Courtyard up in Lone Tree, at the Marriott up in Lone Tree, we can actually step in. We'll contact the Sheriff's Department to move those migrants out, and then we'll take legal action against Denver. And the important thing, of course, the legal action against Denver, great. That's going to take a year, maybe two, to work its way through the courts, right? But in the meantime, with the cooperation of the Sheriff's Department, yeah, we will find another place for those migrants that Denver had dumped on us as immediately can be.
And I don't mean to carry on about this, but I think it's related. We do have a camping ban in Douglas County, so you're not allowed to just camp on the streets. And that might be different from where you're from. I don't know. But we don't allow that. The other big piece, and I'm thankful to our undersheriff and sheriff for this, is we do not allow people to impede traffic by soliciting donations and running out into the middle of the street. We have what's called a HEART team. It's a Homeless Engagement Assistance Resource Team, which isn't just law enforcement. It's a navigator with a behavioral health background paired with law enforcement. And you can call that, anybody can call that number. If you just Google Douglas County HEART team, if you see an individual that is facing a housing crisis or panhandling, obviously two different issues, but interrelated. You can call that number and you'll get a live person and they will just go right to wherever it is and make sure that if that person needs services, they will get services. 100% of them will get, we had a veteran that just needed a bus ticket to Tennessee and they found, a nonprofit to help with that. So we will help with those resources, but a lot of folks are service resistant. And many of those that are service resistant also have a warrant out for their arrest. So we don't wink at that. We actually take that pretty seriously, under sheriff. So yeah. Jail is what I heard from the undersheriff. So just wanted to share that that's sort of our overarching perspective out here. But thank you.
Thank you so much.
I understand that we are going back to polling question number 2 to hear about volunteering in our older adults. Is that right, Roger?
We are. We're going to ask that question. Then we'll go back to segment 20 and talk about property taxes. We've got a lot of questions in the queue for property taxes. But first, let's ask our question about volunteering. 68% of you who responded to the county's survey last year said you're interested in volunteering. And if you are interested, what opportunities would you pursue? Press 1 for assist with transportation to appointments, grocery stores, and entertainment. Press 2 for home care like yard work and in-home support. Press 3 for meal delivery. Press 4 for companionship. Press 5 for teaching and mentoring. Press 6 for child care programs. Press 7 for other, and press 8 if you're not interested in volunteering. That's a long list, so I'll repeat it quickly. 1 is assist with transportation. 2 is home care like yard work. 3 is meal delivery. 4 companionship. 5 teaching and mentoring. 6 child care programs. 7 other, and 8 not interested in volunteering. So we'll let you vote that, and we'll move on to our segment with Assessor Domish. Commissioner Thomas.
Thank you, Roger. We really are interested in these polling questions, so I hope that you heard your choices and you're voting. In the meantime, we know that you all just got your property tax letters in the mail in the last 10 days. We are getting lots of questions about those property taxes. And so we'd like to take this opportunity to have the assessor explain those property taxes, because we know that a lot of seniors are on fixed incomes. Yesterday afternoon, I was standing out at the front door talking to someone who had come in to pay her property taxes. And I bet there were 20 people who came in while I was standing there to pay their property taxes. And I bet most of them were over 60 or even 70. And so I know that group doesn't, many of us don't have mortgages. So we are coming in person to pay those property taxes. And we know that it's tough. So Toby, would you like to explain what happened with property taxes this year?
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner. This is a very complicated issue in the state of Colorado, so much so that your county commissioners have had at least 3 town halls just on this topic in the past 12 months. It's been such an important issue in the state of Colorado, and frankly, not just the state of Colorado, but throughout the Western United States. This is a very big issue. I want everyone here and on the phone to understand that the cost of ownership, just to maintain our house, keep a roof above our head, is very much in our minds here. Every day it is in our minds. Everyone at this table has been thinking about this. And the increased taxes that have occurred this year is just one piece of that, but it's really important piece because they have increased so much. So how did that happen? All the Colorado assessors were required to reassess or reappraise all the property in their counties in 2023. And in doing that, and that was a statutory requirement. We could not do it. Believe me, we asked. And in doing that, we were reflecting a real estate market increase in the order of 20 to 100%, depending on where you are in the state. And in Douglas County, the median increase in a residential property went up 47% in that reassessment. And that reflected what happened in the market prior to the appraisal date of June 2022. What followed that was an appeals process. What followed that was a lot of work by this county, among others, to try and address the situation, including challenging Proposition HH, which was on last year's ballot. The fact is, the state General Assembly could have addressed this matter. And in my opinion, they did very little to nothing to fix this. We can't talk about this without mentioning the Gallagher Amendment, which was a state constitutional amendment, which for almost 40 years held our residential property taxes in check. That amendment was repealed in 2020, which opened the door for really what happened the past 12 months. So here we are. The story goes on, and your treasurer, Dave Gill, mails out tax statements 2 to 3 weeks ago. And we're all sitting here having to pay increases of 30, 40, 50%. So what now? Well, the General Assembly is in a legislative session currently, and they are talking about this subject matter. There is a property tax commission that Governor Polis has created that's got about 19 members on it, and they've been meeting about once a week or every other week the past couple months to see if they could find resolution to this matter. No resolution has come out of that property tax commission as of yet. Your property taxes, your statement, that calculation is made up of 3 components: the assessor's actual value, the assessment rate, which is determined by the General Assembly, and the sum of the local mill levies, which, as a prior caller, I believe it was John, mentioned, is the local tax rate determined by each of the local taxing authorities that we pay into, such as Douglas County Government, Douglas County Libraries, the schools, your metro district, so on and so forth. So all those components are put together to result in your tax bill. And the average tax statement in Douglas County went up between 30 and 40%, somewhere around 35%. All right. That is unbearable for a lot of citizens of Douglas County, certainly citizens on fixed income, many of which who are the subject tonight. So I want everyone to know that we here at the table are all with you, and we're doing everything we can. We have the past 12 months, and we'll continue to do that. I want to mention 2 programs that are really, really important that do exist that might be of help to some of you. The first is the senior exemption. If you're in the room, can you raise your hand if you know that you have a senior exemption on your property? Great. Great. A number of you do. I am shocked at how often we see that there are seniors age 65 or older who qualify and have qualified for the exemption and never applied. And so we're doing everything we can to get the word out on this, but here's what it is in a nutshell. If you're 65 years of age or older and you've lived and owned your home for 10 years, then you qualify for the program. And the program reduces or exempts $100,000 of value off of your home. So if you have a $400,000 home, then your property taxes are essentially reduced by 25%. For most homeowners in Douglas County, that's a savings of $600 to $700 per year. And that savings varies a little bit every year. So that is a really important program in the state of Colorado. You can call my office, Douglas County Assessor's Office, with any questions about that program. The second program, which has been adjusted this year, is called the Property Tax Deferral Program. Now, this program is important for those of you who are listening who really are looking at this tax statement and you don't know how you're going to pay it. Like, you don't have the funds. So there is a program run by the state of Colorado, and you can go to the website, which I'll give to you in just a moment here. It's colorado.propertytaxdeferral.com, colorado.propertytaxdeferral.com. And this does not exempt your property taxes, but it defers it into the point where you are able to pay it or until you sell your home. So there's different ways to apply for and qualify for this program. One is as a senior citizen, age 65 or greater. Another is an active member of the military. And the third is anyone who owns a property that whose value has gone up more than 4%. So this is a broad-based program, but if you're in a situation where you can't pay these property taxes, I want you to call our office and discuss the property tax deferral program with us, and we can help walk you through the process. Thank you very much.
And I'm going to add to that. So at the Housing Partnership, we provide housing and develop housing, but we also have certified HUD housing counselors. And so if you are worried about paying your taxes and you're concerned that you could fall into foreclosure, contact our office immediately, right away. And so you can reach our office. You can go to our website at douglascountyhousingpartnership.org, and we can connect you with someone to be proactive and provide some education and connect you with the right people. In addition to that, our housing counselors offer a reverse mortgage counseling, a HECM, and we can work with you to help you understand how your equity in your home can be accessed safely so that you can pay your taxes, pay your insurance if that's getting high, or access it for other needs such as downsizing. So please contact us and we'll get you connected as soon as possible. Thanks.
Thank you, Maria. Roger, I think that we have an online call. Is that right?
Let's hear from Marty next on the phone. Marty, go ahead with your question.
Sorry about that. Had to find the unmute button. So I guess to just make this succinct, I'm a married gay man. I am, and we are, a very unusual couple because we're actually Republicans, not Democrats. And we don't believe in, the transgender thing. We don't believe in indoctrination, and we don't believe in any of that stuff. But we also do believe that with all the things that have been happening, we've got a few issues that we're facing down the barrel of. We've been in our home for over 12 years. Our home is paid off. We are both disabled. And one of us is about to get disability, the other one not even close. Income has become pretty much non-existent.
Hey, Marty,
And
I'm
the
gonna
concerns are,
Marty, I'm gonna jump in just because we're getting short on time. I think you had a question about resources for senior and for veterans. Do you want to ask that question real quick?
yeah, what resources are available for veterans, with, what we are facing, as well as our taxes having gone up so astronomically. And I heard everything that was said previously about senior taxes. I don't hear anything about veteran taxes. And I don't hear anything about, how veterans get any sort of help or hand up in what's been going on.
All right.
Great
Officially.
question. Well, I've got really good news for you. So I'm a member of the LGBTQ community. So you have a commissioner there. You have another commissioner who is a veteran, and we both are Republicans that really care about our community. So Commissioner Teal, anything on the veteran front?
Specifically to tax relief for veterans, the assessor talked about the property tax deferral program. And correct me if I'm wrong, Toby, but we did get a bill passed last year that do allow veterans to qualify for that deferral program as well. Go ahead, Assessor.
Yeah, there are three avenues to that deferral program, and one is for veterans and active military. So again, you can call our office for that. And I want to add, the senior homestead exemption also applies to 100% disabled vets. So if either one of you is 100% disabled, I'd invite you to call my office and we can talk about that program.
Thank you, Assessor. Beyond that, guys, when you talk to, first of all, any veteran, I would invite you to come on in to the county. Over here at the Wilcox Building, we have a Veteran Services office here in the county where you may qualify based upon your service for aid, for assistance. And it's beyond just medical assistance from the Veterans Administration. And for those that are still in need, we do have a number of veterans programs, nonprofits here in the county, specifically the Veterans Memorial Fund. The Veterans Memorial has been built out here on Wilcox Street for almost 20 years now, and yet the foundation still exists, and now they're very much a veterans beneficiary organization. And so if it's a matter of needing a quick grant in order to just make the bills this month, you'll be fine in the coming months, but just to make the bills this month, the Douglas County Veterans Memorial Foundation is a really good place to go to reach out. And again, all that can start. Every veteran who might be listening right now, all of that can start by coming over to our Veterans Assistance Office over here at the Wilcox Building and talking to our trained counselors. They'll find out the nature of your service, and they'll help walk you through and find the benefits, not only that you need, but as a military veteran, the benefits you earned. Abe, back to you. I think we wanted to go to the next segment, and that's yours, sir.
Okay, so moving on to the next segment, which I believe is going to be some safety Q&A, and I think we're watching for some cue cards. Is that right? Roger, where do you want us to go?
Why don't you go ahead and just introduce this, and then we'll go to the Undersheriff and Deputy Faulkner.
Okay, let's do that. So basically, our emergency services and safe community were two of the reasons people want to stay in Douglas County. Nearly 95% of our survey respondents rated emergency service as good or excellent, 95%. So I'm pleased to welcome Douglas County Sheriff's Office, we've already done this with you, and you guys are sitting right next to me, as well as our Senior Resource Deputy, Ryan Faulkner. And Undersheriff, would you like to say a few words to get us started?
And I know we're short on team, and I'm going to make this quick because I want Ryan Faulkner to say a few things. But, in Douglas County, we take your safety seriously. And we want, as I said, we want a safe community. And I don't care how old you are, but what I really care about is, quite honestly, aging individuals. They are much more likely to be victims of things like financial crimes. I talked to Jerry about our financial crimes unit that is dedicated resources to help seniors and investigate crimes. And this is because the commissioners, but Ryan Faulkner down here, that was an idea we had a couple years ago. Again, we go to the commissioners. We say, we want to hire a deputy sheriff, and a deputy sheriff that is 100% committed to our seniors in this county. That's your guy. That is your guy right down. Obviously, if you need immediate help, it's 911. But if you need anything else as a senior, that's your guy. We are here to help. And by contacting him, you get the resources of the entire Douglas County Sheriff's Office. And I'll just tell you, I really care a lot. In fact, on Monday, my 95-year-old mother will then be a resident of Douglas County. So I care about people in this county. And like I said, my mom is moving into Douglas County on Monday. I'm very happy about that. So Ryan, if you will, talk to us and introduce the newest sworn member of the Douglas County Sheriff's Office.
Thank you so much, Undersheriff. This is my new partner in crime. And yes, I get it. He is a little cuter than me. His name is Leo. He's a 3-month-old Bernie Doodle. He is our senior resource animal, senior resource dog. He is going to be trained in emotional services. And so wherever I go, he'll go. And I want to thank the sheriff and undersheriff for this wonderful journey that we are just starting. I think it completes the circle, showing how much the sheriff's office truly cares for our older adults. Some safety tips. 3 biggest things is we really rely on our community. We have a wonderful community. Our community supports us. The community trusts us, and we never want to abuse that. However, like the undersheriff said, there's so many things that we can do in a partnership aspect. Some of that is reaching out to me, helping out wherever I can. If you belong to a neighborhood that is a neighborhood watch, that is great. If you don't, please talk to your HOA or whoever is in charge of your neighborhood to try to get neighborhood watch rolling. It does take a whole community to make sure our community is safe. Secondly, scams. I long for the days I don't have to talk about scams. But I need your guys' help in reporting it. Many of our victims feel ashamed. I should have known better type of attitude. If you get victimized, there's no excuse for it. You have to report it, report, so we can find justice wherever we possibly can. And then lastly, I really want you all to focus on communication with number one, your family. So if you do come across these scams, I got a phone call from the IRS. What's that about? Hopefully your trusted loved ones can guide you in the right direction. Second, communication with law enforcement. Me. I have my phone next to me 24/7. I do take phone calls on the weekend. I am a proud servant of each and every one of you. And then lastly, your banks. I'll use an example. Years ago, my bank had this service where if I used my credit card outside of the state of Colorado, it would not work. A few moments later, they canceled that program. Saying in good communication with them, I requested that we keep that program for myself, and they honored it. There's so many wonderful things that our banks can do to protect our finances. That's all I have, and I believe it's to you, Commissioner.
Well, thank you for that. I think we do have an online question perhaps for you, Roger.
Ooh, we do. Amy asks that she's heard of an idea used by some police departments in which older adults can log their address and medical needs so first responders have the information in an emergency. Does the sheriff's department do that?
To answer it real quick, yes. We also have a fantastic program partnered up with the Castle Rock Senior Center called the Douglas Senior Safe Program. This program is designed for older adults who are feeling isolated or lonely or just not connected to our wonderful community. The volunteers from the Castle Rock Senior Center will make phone calls, and then I will meet with that client to discuss how that client wants law enforcement to respond. But any which way, this program is really critical for that client to custom make their wishes. And many of our citizens have asked if they can just give us that information, and we're more than happy to take it. Again, not just me, but the whole sheriff's office is here for your guys' betterment.
Pass it along to Commissioner Thomas, I think, for an online question, but I just wanted to thank Deputy Faulkner, Leo, Under Sheriff Welcher, and welcome to your mom. We're glad she's a new resident of Douglas County.
95 years old, folks.
Pretty cool. Commissioner Thomas.
Roger, we have an online question.
We do. It came from Jim. I think everyone loves animals. Jim asks, this is for Deputy Faulkner, do you have a tour schedule for Leo around the county? Will it be published on the sheriff's website?
Well, he's definitely, I call it the 15 minutes of fame, but his 15 minutes is turning into 15 months, it feels like. He goes wherever I go. So if you don't follow us on social media, or if you don't have social media, check our website frequently. I'm at 95% of our community events, especially if it's about the older adult population. If you see me, there's a good chance that you'll meet Leo.
Thank you. I think we're moving into our wrap up. Is that Assessor Domish first?
Well, I want to thank you all for being here, and I think I just want to finish with this. Property taxes, you've heard me say, are very complicated, and they're even more complicated for our senior community. So we have staff in our office who are assigned to answering phones, and they have great expertise in this area. So if you want any more information on what I shared tonight, please call us 303-660-7450, or you can Google us, find us online. We've got a great website too. Thank you all. Appreciate you for being here.
Thank you very much, Assessor. Well, folks, thank you all very much for joining us this evening. Again, where our Older Adults Initiative began was the fact that we know we do a lot of good things. We know Carrie and her organization at ARDC do a lot of great things. How do we know it? We hear about it. We hear about it from our federal partners. We hear about it from our state partners. They tell us we do things right for older adults here in Douglas County. But then, occasionally, I'll run into one of you. I'll run into one of our neighbors at King Soopers, at Safeway. And I'll get the inclination that despite everything good that we do, maybe there's something we could do, be doing better. Maybe we could be doing more. Maybe there's something we should be doing and we could be doing. And so that was the reason for our Older Adults Initiative. And it's reason for having, and all of you are the reason why I think this initiative is going to work out really well, because it's due to your participation. It's due to your showing up for the listening sessions, showing up tonight. whether you're joining us in person or on the phone, and giving us this feedback about the things that are important to you will help us to tailor the county services for our older adults community, of which I guess, actually, technically, Carrie, I guess I'm even a part of, because I'm 56 years old. So I appreciate your participation today, even from a very selfish point of view. I do want to, before turning it over, I do want to say, watch for information about upcoming road shows throughout the year. If you want information about this, folks, I ask you to go to douglas.co.us, and that way you can sign up for emails. And as we set the roadshow schedule to, again, it's not only pushing information out, but it's hearing from you and making sure information is coming in for us so that we can create the proper services for the people of Douglas County. Commissioner Layton.
Thank you, Chair. I really appreciate that. And I just want to thank each and every person for attending here live with us in the hearing room as well as online. And I'll just tell you directly that, you know, you're with your county government tonight. There's only 3 of us, but we have such great friends and colleagues, and you can see them along this panel, but there's so many in this community. Most people will never know what a commissioner is. But we don't take ourselves that seriously, but we take the job seriously. We're those people locally that you see in the grocery store or out on the street. And we really do value, and not just value, but prize our senior citizens, because you have raised families and committed to this community, bought property here and had jobs. That kind of life experience is invaluable. So you are treasured here. Know that we value you. And if you see any of us out and about, please feel free to reach out and let us know what issues and concerns you have. We don't wait to do great. If we do hear something of significance, we'll get it moving. Commissioner Thomas?
Thank you. These town halls are successful because of the people who participate in them, but also the people who make them happen. Rodney in the back. There's Wendy, there's Roger, there's other people working behind the scenes to get these live town halls functioning. So we owe them a thanks because they help us hear what you have to say. I also see several providers in the room here who work at food banks and are available to help seniors and others with needs like food. So if you walk around a little bit afterwards, you're going to be able to pick them out, but they're on this side of the room in the back here. There were also some polling questions that we asked today. I understand that the answers to those polling questions will be posted on the county's website on Monday on the live town hall page, because I know I want to see what those answers are, and I bet you are too. Thank you for participating. Thank you for being a part of this great Douglas County community where we all love to live, work, and play. Good night, and God bless everybody.
Thank you, commissioners. We apologize for the technical issues we had tonight. And as Commissioner Thomas mentioned, you can find polling questions on the county website. Just go to the website and search live town halls and you'll find that page. We also had an online question about if someone was taking notes or minutes of the meeting. We post a video of the entire town hall on the county's YouTube page. That'll be up also early next week. On behalf of Douglas County and your 3 commissioners, thank you for joining us this afternoon. If we didn't get to your question, we invite you to submit feedback at douglas.co.us/town hall. And we hope you will join us again for a future town hall. Thank you and good night.